Hello and welcome to the Keeper's Archives. My name is Mario and I will be one of the creators on this channel. I would like to start off by thanking anyone tuning in. You, the audience, will be what makes or breaks this channel, just like any other. So whether it takes off or not, thank you for watching. This channel is a project that my friends and I have been wanting to do for some time. If I remember correctly, the original idea was pitched in like 2014. Could have been a bit later than that, maybe even up to like 2016. I don't remember exactly when this idea came to life, but the idea was just a gaming channel between us friends. We were hanging out one night, playing video games, goofing around, commenting on what was happening on the screen, and we kind of realized that we should probably be recording this. Game Grumps was still relatively newish at the time, if I remember correctly, so it would have been closer to 2014, I think. But that's basically what we figured. Hey, we could probably do this. This could probably work. We threw around some ideas, brainstormed a bit about what we could do, and then unfortunately, that was kind of it for a while. I mean, we didn't really touch on the subject. Life happens. We were busy, and then we have never gotten around to it. As time passed, eventually we came around to when the pandemic hit, and suddenly everybody's stuck in their homes with nothing to do. A lot of people decided to start trying to stream games or do video game stuff. Everybody and their grandma wanted to become a streamer. During this time, I figured seeing as everybody was trying to do the same thing basically, I figured we should hold off a bit until it all kind of leveled out, because a lot of people were only doing this because they had nothing to do. And as things went back to normal after the pandemic, I can't imagine a lot of people kept up with it, but we kept talking about it and keep talking about it, and nothing seems to happen. Here we are, mid 2025, and still no channel. But that won't be the case anymore. A few months ago, I suddenly found myself with extra time, a lot of extra time. Decided to kickstart the whole project in hopes of success. If it all went well, my friends would eventually start contributing their own content for the channel. See, as time had passed, we had come up with more ideas for the channel, and my ambitions have grown for the channel. Inspiration from YouTubers like Lazy Gamer Reviews, Gamers Nexus, and the aforementioned Game Grumps, along with several other YouTubers. It's going to be a little bit different for each one of us, but these are the ones that I really have been getting inspiration from. And with that being said, my idea was basically to create a channel that's a mix between all of them. Out of them. The main idea was just creating a channel where we play and talk, very much like Game Grumps, but you want it to be a little bit more. It can't just be that, at least in my mind. Playthroughs, reviews, live streams, all those things. Be doing some stuff on my own, they'll be doing stuff on their own. We'll get together and play some games, get together and review some stuff, depending on what the situation calls for. To start off, I will be focusing on just like let's play style playthroughs of games, something that I figured would be basically the easiest thing to do. Mostly just to get myself comfortable with all the tools, the video editing, the hardware, just getting into a workflow basically of making the videos. I was already familiar with editing videos, but very, very rudimentary, trimming, adding sound or replacing the sound with music, things like that, slideshows. The thing is, I had just never done anything this consistently or to this scale. But with that being said, the first videos you guys will be seeing from me will be playthroughs of a game called Flow. You may or may not have heard of it. If you haven't, then, please feel free to check them out. With that, I decided after playing Flow that I would just do all the games that game company, which is what the game company that made the game is called. That game company has made 4 games, of which I've only played the first 3, and I just decided to kind of follow through with those after I finished Flow. There's no particular reason as to why I started off with Flow. It was just, again, I was sitting in front of my TV with my PS5 on late one night. Didn't know what to play, didn't know if I was even wanting to play games. I was just indecisive about what to do. And that's when the thought or inspiration just popped into my head. What if I just start the channel? I have a lot of free time. So then as those thoughts were going through my head, first thing is, what should I do? What do I do first? I figured, it has to be something simple. A playthrough. Okay. A playthrough. Okay. What game? What game am I going to do the playthrough about? I mean, there's so many games to choose from the catalog of games that I have, but I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to start off with. The idea at that point was to just make a playthrough video, like if this is just something that I already did, kind of just following playthrough videos that I've seen other people do, a mock-up, so to speak, of a video if I was already a YouTuber. So I just started scrolling through all the games that I have installed on my PS5. Nothing was really catching my attention until I hit the game Flow. Now, Flow is a wonderfully simple game, and it's just a very well-built game. It's hard to explain without you seeing or playing the game. But I mean, yeah, I decided, okay, let's do Flow. It's easy. It's a pretty relatively short and easy game. So I sat down, pulled out my headset, plugged it into my controller, waited a bit for the house to get more quiet as it got later, closed my door just to make sure that I wouldn't get any or as minimal random noises coming into my room, and then just started up the game and hit record. After finishing the first video, I put it through the video editor, and I figured, I'll put this up on YouTube unlisted on my personal channel, which if you want to look up, it's at MADLH24. It's all my older stuff, nothing like this, just gameplay, some other stuff sprinkled in here and there. But if you're interested, you can look it up. But anyway, I showed it to, my friends who we planned this out with, and then, get an idea of whether, what I made was even something that anybody would want to watch. Now, I'm still very apprehensive about thinking that anybody would want to listen to me while I play games and watch the videos, but I got positive feedback from everybody who I showed them to. But I can't shake off the feeling that only people who know me will be interested. But I just kept going. I split up the game into episodes per level, basically, and then with each video that I made, my editing skills improved, and since then I have grown more comfortable with the idea of releasing my content publicly, which has been a really big thing that I need to get over. And being in the spotlight is not something that I'm fond of. I'm not banking on blowing up. I mean, I can hope that our videos will resonate with a wide audience, bringing success to this channel, but I'm not expecting it. I can't shake the feeling that, I'm just one in a million. For me to think that I'm going to stand out is just, I don't know. I don't want to be disappointed in myself if it doesn't work out. Again, I'm not fond of attention, but if it comes to that, we'll cross that bridge if I even get to it. I mean, to top it off, I really don't like the sound of my voice. So the first few videos that I did were filled with me cringing at myself when I heard my voice in the video. And I don't know what it is, but just hearing myself in recordings just makes me nauseous. But the more exposure I got to my own voice, the more I could kind of just ignore those feelings. It helped me just to get over it, and the idea of other people hearing it. I just kind of kept at it, getting a little bit better with each video, getting better with the software, learning as I went. I'm very picky about quality. I always aim to put out the highest quality that I can with the tools that I have. One of the first things that immediately caught my attention was how bad or how compressed, how hollow my voice sounded in the first video. I mean, I was recording through my headset, which is what I use for gaming, for communication. That was connected to my controller, which is wirelessly connected to the PlayStation. So I realized, that the quality of the voice capture is not going to be that high. It's just enough to get your voice through and for people to hear you, not exactly, a like for how I sound. That was probably part of the issue of me not liking the sound of my voice. But the first thing that I started working on is trying to get my voice to sound better, at least closer to what I hear when I'm listening to myself talk. So second video, I connected the headset to my phone instead and used the built-in Dolby recording app on my phone to record myself while I played. And then I just grabbed the sound file and then just synced it up in the video editing software. The quality of that came out better than just straight off of what the PlayStation captured, but I still wasn't very happy. And I realized that, it's probably just the quality of the microphone on my headset. It's just enough. It's good, but not great. During all this, you know, I remembered one time while I was rummaging through the garage, seeing a microphone in the garage, like a studio microphone, what is known as a condenser mic. And this was a while back that I remember seeing this. So I was like, man, I wonder if it's still in the garage. I went in there, so I did find it, dug it out, and I thought to myself, why is this here? Nobody in this household has ever done anything that would require a microphone like this. So I was scratching my head trying to figure out where this came from and why it's there when I need it. Like, it's almost too much of a coincidence. So I asked around and then found out that one of my cousins had left it there when they were trying to do some kind of project, and then they weren't very happy with the sound that was coming out through it, so they just kind of left it there. They didn't really care for it. And I was like, okay, well, can I use it? And they're like, yeah, go for it. I was like, all right. So I immediately plugged it into the computer and started using that. So yeah, I did decide to start recording on the PC, so that way I could get at least, the very least, the highest quality bit rate to minimize any quality loss to compression rather than just the microphone quality. And it being, a cheap mic, the third video was not very good. It was honestly potentially even worse than the first video. Just it's a different quality of bad. But I mean, again, the mic was cheap. It had already a mic arm, really small one, but it 100% resembled the arms that are used by the desk lamps, like you see in the Pixar intro animation. And the only thing that I was missing was a bass. So it was just the arm and the microphone, and then the wires, and then the power supply for the mic, which is called the phantom power supply. So I had to find myself a bass. Thankfully, I have literally a desk lamp that has that kind of arm, and I was like, I wonder if it fits. Oh wow, it does fit. Cool. So I used that base to put the microphone next to me. But after the third video, hearing how not great the microphone sounded, I was like, there has to be something wrong. Something that I'm doing wrong. So I did some research and found out that, these microphones do need some level of maintenance. They need to be cleaned. The more you use it, the more often you need to clean it. They tend to be affected by things like moisture, humidity, and then, if the coil isn't dry or clean, you'll get a muffled sound or just subpar sound. And I was pretty unsatisfied. But after I figured that out, I cleaned it up, dried it out, and then it sounded way better at that point. And then I felt like I could work with it. I still wasn't quite 100% happy with it, but I was able to fix a lot of what I didn't like by just messing with an equalizer in post. But I just kept messing with the equalizers to try and get a better sound, the sound that I like, and never really was quite happy with the sound. And then after changing cables and doing everything else that I could, I came to the conclusion that the part that was causing me the issues was the power supply that it came with, the phantom power supply. Now this is just a very, very extremely basic thing that just gives power to the microphone and sends the signal out to wherever you're gonna plug it into. There's no kind of modulation, no volume control, nothing. So I started looking into mixers that had built-in phantom power and that had some level of volume control. That way I wouldn't have to keep boosting it and introducing more noise. So I found a mixer that wasn't too expensive, and then once that came in, I plugged it in, and then boom, the microphone sounded amazing. This is what you're hearing now. I no longer had to edit the voice clips in post, but that didn't happen until I was on like my 20th or so video, give or take. At this point, I have quite a few videos that I have ready to upload to this channel, but for now, I'm thinking just one a week, just to give me a bit of a buffer before, the videos catch up. If you guys like them and I see some kind of traction in the channel, I might do some more different things like reviews for hardware and software, live streams. I might just go ahead and do those in between here and there. And then, whenever and as soon as my friends feel comfortable joining me, they can. This was a collective idea. If it's not successful, and I might still continue to make videos, but just not very many, because I'll be having to do things to keep myself afloat. I do find this fun, and just hope that other people like what we make. So that's basically as concise of a way that I can put what I've been doing and what I hope to accomplish with this channel. As far as myself personally, I'm just a guy who loves to game and would love to be able to do something with that. Gaming has been a part of my life as far as I can remember. I mean, the faintest memories of when I was a toddler messing around with a computer in our house that, I mean, I don't even remember whose it was, but I would mess with it. I would like playing with all the settings on the screensavers, messing around with Microsoft Paint. But yeah, I mean, the oldest game that I can remember playing was a platformer where you explore ancient ruins. Side-scrolling platformer. Of course, you know, it was old. And for the longest time, I thought that you played as a blue cat, but it could have been just that I was a little kid and couldn't make sense of it, and I misinterpreted what the character was. And that was a big reason why I couldn't ever find the game when I finally started trying to look up the game when I was older. And it actually wasn't until a few months ago that I finally rediscovered the game. The name of the game is called Challenge of the Ancient Empires, and the game was for MS-DOS. And the character was most definitely not a blue cat. It's just a guy with a blue sweater. And you might hear me reference the game in one of the videos that I put up, but at the time that I made the video, I still hadn't rediscovered it yet. Anyway, I feel like from that moment on is where I became a gamer. You know, my obsession with video games just kind of grew as I got older. And with that, you know, a lot of my interests were inspired and or guided by video games. I love electronics, anything that has to do with technology. You know, the games in general led to my curiosity about how these electronics work. TVs, consoles, computers, etc. I mean, the first time that I ever opened up any kind of electronic device was our family PC, which this was around when I was like 13 or 14, I think. And the reason why I opened up was because it was starting to get really loud. You could hear the fan just, you know, screaming. And then I opened it up, you know, and I was fascinated by everything that I saw inside, you know, and I just kept digging and my knowledge grew. And then with all the knowledge that I acquired from the curiosity of how all these devices work, you know, I taught myself how to repair these things, and that's a lot of what I do now, just electronics repair. But before that moment, I had never had the courage to open things up for fear of messing it up. Then to go along with that, you know, games also helped me forge the friendships that I made in life through sharing our experiences and playing some games, you know, getting together with my friends, you know, all that I feel like is what helped form those strong bonds of friendship that I have with my current circle of friends, which I've had for most of my life now. In short, my life would be completely different if it weren't for video games. And if you're still interested, you can watch the first video that I put up, which I'm going to put up with this video. And again, thank you for listening, and hope to see you in the first video.